Audio on demand from Vision Christian Media.
Exploring faith and the future. Neil Johnson and Bible teacher Dr. Camille Majdali.
We've been spending some time recently talking about sure foundations and discussing a shaking that's going on in the world and the way that travel, technology and knowledge have increased dramatically. This is a different world we live in today, Camille, than what we might read about from biblical times, and yet the Bible has so much to say about the way that we ought to conduct ourselves today. Let me ask you that in an age of globalisation, what has God got to say to us?
Well, first of all, let's talk about what globalization is first. Globalization, some people think it started at the end of the Cold War, but it actually started earlier. But what does it first of all mean? I think it means the free movement of goods, services, people, money, and ideas. We somewhat have this within a nation like Australia, United States, and so on, where there's relatively free movement of goods, services, people, money, and ideas within a country. But globalization actually sees this happening between countries, almost as if we're on one economy. I mean, a trite example is your ATM card. You can put an ATM machine anywhere in the world and pull out local currency. You couldn't do that before, you can now. But I might add that I understand globalization actually started maybe 150 years ago, courtesy of the British Empire. And the British Empire wanted this free movement of goods, services, and ideas between the colonies because, remember the phrase of the British Empire, the sun never set. And this continued on all the way to the Great War of 1914, then appears to have been interrupted by great wars and depression, all that, and then, of course, the Cold War. There's no globalization when you've got the Soviet Union on one side and the Americans on the other staring at each other over the Berlin Wall. At the end of the Cold War, it begins apace. And while some people think it's actually capitalism that triumphs and capitalism running riot in globalization, someone actually put it this way: it's more corporatism than capitalism of what we're seeing. You know, big companies soaking up all the money, not paying taxes to countries, and that kind of thing.
Camille, oftentimes when we do reflect on the Bible, there is some reference, isn't there, to a form of globalization?
Well, the Bible seems to imply not so much globalization, but globalism. What's the difference? Globalization is free movement. Globalism is a one world government. In Daniel 7:23, it talks about the fourth beast, which is the fourth kingdom, and that it shall devour the whole earth and tread it down and break it in pieces. Not a very nice thought. This fourth kingdom may correlate to the legs of iron, feet of iron and clay in Daniel chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar's statue, and perhaps the United Nations or the regionalization of different nations like European Union or NAFTA. All this may be forcing us into globalism or a one world government. But can I just share a little interesting quirk here? I read a piece that talks about a good example of globalization is the death of Princess Diana. How come? Here's the answer that was given. She's an English princess with an Egyptian boyfriend, crashes in a French tunnel, riding a German car installed with a Dutch engine, driven by a Belgian who was drunk on Scottish whiskey, followed closely by Italian paparazzi, riding on Japanese motorcycles, later on treated by an American doctor using Brazilian medicines, and this is sent to you by a Singaporean of Chinese descent using Bill Gates' Windows operating system. Of course, TV witnesses of the funeral were 1 billion people worldwide of the most photographed woman in the world.
Faith and the Future with Neil Johnson and Dr. Camille Majdali from Teach All Nations. Find articles, videos and podcasts from Dr. Camille, plus today's and other episodes of Faith and the Future in the Vision app or at vision.org.au.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.